12:43 a.m. September 29th, 2024. Does it really not affect you, or are you just numbing yourself? I got this video idea from a video by actualize.org and from a personal experience I had on Thursday. It's the early morning of Sunday right now as I'm recording this. I think in the actualize.org video it was called overcoming addiction and some other stuff after that. But it was mentioned somewhere in the video about how we might think we're over certain stuff, or certain stuff doesn't affect us. That was the one of the ideas mentioned. I don't know if it was specifically stated like that. But we use our vice, whatever it is, whatever the addiction or compulsion is, as a way to numb it. And I think most people talk about that, but not in an indirect way, which is what I feel like I've done. Because most people bring it up as you use an addiction or whatever the vice is as a reliever, directly or right after something happens to you or something doesn't go your way. Like shows, for example, maybe somebody's in a bad mood and their coworkers or their friends will try to cheer them up, and they're like, we're going out drinking tonight or something. They do it as a solution, directly after. That's their way of fixing, or I guess numbing the problem or your feelings towards the problem. But I feel like I don't do that much. I feel like when I give into vices or addiction or compulsion, it's more so just mine is more so out of boredom. But it's just routine. It's not really oh, this happened to me, let me go do it. It's much more just ingrained in my way of being, instead of being a problem solver, because it's not. I guess in that case it's solving the problem of boredom in that moment. Well, maybe it does do that a little bit, but yeah. The situation that came up for me on Thursday was there was a situation that I thought I was over, a few days before it happened, before Thursday came. And then on Thursday I ran into something that, triggered my recollection of the event, and feelings came up that made me realize that I wasn't really unaffected by it as much as I thought I was. Before that day I was feeling pretty fine about it. I hadn't had any real feelings about it, but once that thing came up and triggered me and made me think, and that was the thing, it made me think about it. But when you're doing whatever you do for fun, or engaging in your addiction, compulsion, any of your vices, you're avoiding what triggers you, avoiding what doesn't sit right with you emotionally. So you don't actually have time to sit there and think. Heavy emphasis on thinking on the topic, whatever it is. So you might think that you're so past this thing, but you don't know till you're really in the situation. And that's a topic for another video as well. Not really understanding the gravity of something, or understanding the gravity of a situation until you're really in it. But you really don't know until it's until you're really confronted with it. An example I would use for that was in high school. I wouldn't approach girls or anything, and I thought, I had the excuse of I didn't want to make anybody uncomfortable or come off as a creep, because that was becoming a thing online a lot. People being labeled as creeps, even whether it's justified or not, whatever the idea was. But what I learned after I've approached now a couple times is I learned that it was harder than I thought it was. Or it's simple in and of itself, but harder to get yourself to do when you're not somebody that's done it before. Or maybe it just depends on your confidence level too, but then again, you're probably going to be less confident if you haven't done it before. Because when I first wanted to do it, and even the second time that I've done it, it took a lot of fighting with myself mentally, or pushing myself mentally to do it. It wasn't just I'm going to do this thing. It was, I had to really prepare my mind, because it was way more intimidating than I thought. And I didn't know that until I got into the situation. Otherwise, I would have just assumed it was pretty easy, but you never know until you're actually there. And I was affected in those moments. Looking back on it, it's no big deal because it's just a memory now. But actually having to open yourself up to those potential bad feelings, you might not actually be willing to do that, or at the very least, not right away. Hopefully you're able to take that rejection, in a romantic or platonic sense at some point in your life, and you don't like let it be your own personal boogeyman forever. Yeah, I just thought it was a good thing to like try to become aware of. Are you really unaffected by something? Are you really over something, or are you really just numbing yourself to that feeling or that thought or that possibility or whatever it is? Are you really like running away from it? But like kind of talking to yourself or treating yourself as if you don't really care that much, as or like you're indifferent. It's an encouragement that I'm trying to give to you to like think about it. Spend some time, like, I don't know if meditating is the right word for it, but really thinking on that topic and seeing what feelings arise from that, what thoughts arise. How does it make you feel? Does it make you cry? Because when that situation came up on Thursday that I was talking about, I got nervous. Like I got like I think it was like fast heart beating or my heart dropped. That's something that usually happens when I run into those situations that like gives me anxiety. I think that's what I usually feel, either a fast heartbeat or my heart drops or something. And that's what I was feeling in those moments. But beforehand, I had no idea that that would even be an issue because, when I'm, again, like when you're not in the situation, you don't really feel it as strongly. You really, really do not know until you put on those shoes and you have to stand in that. Just something to think about.